Hello folks, this is John again and welcome back to my new in-depth mixing tutorial. Now in this second video we will actually get into some first steps of EQing. And here is the main point of this video. Don't just EQ everything for itself in solo. Later on you will most likely run into the problem that nothing really fits together and all these tracks don't feel like one unit, like they belong together. Rather, mix in context of the whole mix for most of the time. When we get into some specifics later on, we may solo some stuff to really pinpoint certain areas. And then also mixing in mono is a kind of idea lots of people promote, and we will be doing that as well, but not right now. What we do right now is just a very basic EQ balancing. What we did in last video was a very basic volume balancing, make sure everything is audible, even the drums without any processing right now, they still punch through, as you can hear. And now we will get into a very first EQ balancing. Now, what we could start off with, or what I personally like to start off with, is the overhead mics and the room mics on the drums. So let's turn on the Pro channel here in Cakewalk. Now this is just what I use, but by all means, please just use what you have available. Now, and let's turn on the EQ. Everything else in here is turned off. I'm not going to use those extra features really most of the time, perhaps the compressor, but also not right now. Now it's just EQing. Let's solo the overheads. Now, what usually works pretty much all the time is just filter the overheads pretty heavily. In that way, you will make sure that later on the lower range and lower mid-range doesn't have too much going on that will potentially muddy things up. And you hear the kick drum, it has kind of a longer tail in that lower mid-range. And it could be a little bit of a problem later on. So let's take care of that. But perhaps also don't filter too drastically when we go to like 1K. Then the cymbals will start to sound kind of thin and just harsh. Cymbals actually have a lot of body in that mid-range around 500 Hertz. Let's do it like this. I'm gonna filter at around 300. And that's it. That's all I'm gonna do for now to the overheads. Now on to the room mics. Here, kind of similar thing. Yeah, something like this. And now what I want to do is I kind of want to buzz all these drums together. Let's call this drums and let's move it. Wait. Still kind of getting used to Cakewalk and the way it behaves with buzzes and whatnot. So now we can just solo the drums. And now we already noticed that the lower range is a bit more focused and doesn't have this washy tail. Okay. So let's just keep it at that, and now let's take a look at our rhythm guitars. So I want to bus those two together. New stereo bus, bus E, let's call this rhythm guitar. And on here, just something like this. So right now we are actually just cleaning up some low end. Later on, I'm still gonna have to work on the low end with my headphones. Because, and I'm saying this pretty much all the time, no matter how good your speakers are and what kind of room treatment you have, home studios always have a bit of a deficit, especially in that low end. It's very hard to get that very precise and clean up. And headphones just kind of bypass all of these troubles. So I don't mix on headphones. For the most part, I just really do the low end with those, and I double check a few things. You know what? Let's do the following. Let's bypass all of this again. Let's save this mix as, yeah, mix 1. Okay. Now let's turn those back on. Drums like this. Save it as mix 2. Okay. See, and then later on we can go from mix to mix and compare if we are actually improving stuff or what's going on there. Okay, now I kind of want to go into the kick drum. And here again, do some very basic stuff. I want to give the kick drum some more high-end click. Wait, we need something to loop. And now I'm already soloing and I notice the kick sounds very poofy. That's usually because there's too much lower mids. Okay, now let's go to the snare. And also just very basic starting points. Now we notice the snare is popping out a whole lot more than before, so let's do some volume balancing. This EQ sadly doesn't seem to have a output volume knob. So, okay, let's just do it with the fader then. Okay, and let's give the snare just a little bit of a low-end filter. So, because also later on in the song there is this kind of faster polka beat part happening over here. We don't really want the very low end of that snare to kind of muddy things up again. Also, the main part of the snare is really here in the upper range crack. And also the body is rather up down here in the 200 Hz range and not that low. Everything below that is not really necessary to the sound. So we could be safe by just filtering it a little bit. But then again, there's this idea out there to not just filter everything by default and whatnot. But you just gotta check out. Some snares are very strong on that very sub range, so you may want to watch out for that. Others are more controlled. I, for my part, like to be safe like this. Okay, now I still want to check the volume balance between the overhead and the room mic. For that, I need a part with cymbals. Yeah, let's take this part in here. No, that's actually okay. That's actually okay. Okay, let's save it. All right, now let's get to the toms. So those benefit from quite a strong top range boost. Okay, something like this for starters. Well, you know what? Let's widen this cut over here a little bit more. Ah, this is a good part. Do it like this. And let's loop this. And now what I want to watch out for is that the toms and the kick drum actually have a very similar kind of attack in that top range. We don't want to have one clicking more than the other. We want it to feel more like a unit. Okay, let's keep it for like that for now. And hi-hats. Yeah, let's just give this one some low-end filter so it doesn't get too boxy. And actually with the hi-hat, the way I like to do it is I want to get most of it just from the overheads because it's actually pretty loud in there already. And very sizzly. And I want to use the direct hi-hat mic to just kind of support it and give it a little bit more body. Okay, let's compare it with a raw mix. Now I noticed the snare could use a little bit more. Okay, now we can actually already switch to mono and just see how does the kick and the snare crack through everything. And what you want to watch out for here is that the vocals, kick and snare kind of really carry the whole song. You want to have the vocals as the main melodic part and you want to have kick and snare really crack through to carry the rhythm. So those three elements need to kind of be on the same level of presence to really carry the whole song. Okay, now rhythm guitars, they can probably benefit from a little bit less lower mid-range. But you know what? That's, for example, something we could check out in mono rather. Let's mute the vocals because they are kind of distracting right now. So now what I've been doing is I was trying to figure out, do the guitars actually need to be brighter and have a bit more top range there? But then I quickly noticed, no, that's starting to stand in the way of the click from the kick and the crack from the snare, so we may not need that top range boost. And something like this really becomes more apparent when you do it in mono. You will see it throughout the whole process. I don't constantly mix in mono. I just reference it from time to check that things are kind of have its place in the frequency spectrum. Okay, now I kind of want to check that top range of the overheads and the room mics, because I feel like they are quite bright up there. See, it's that region there, centering around 6K in the cymbals. That can sound pretty harsh a lot of times. Hang on, I need a part with actual cymbals, not just hi-hats. Okay, and now I notice there's still a little bit of a resonance here in that boxy mid-range. And I've kind of want to give it a low pass filter. Yeah, because that top range is a little bit too piercing. Those cymbals are quite the struggle, I tell you. Okay, now similar procedure for the room mics. Kind of hearing that ringing there. Now the cool thing about low pass filtering cymbals and room mics is it makes them appear to be a little bit further back in space because you just have less high-end detail. And in this way you can play with EQ to make things appear further back and not be too upfront. And especially with the room mics, that's what we want. I want to check the cymbals if those also have this ringing. Yeah. Now let's move to the section that has the left cymbal very predominantly. Okay, and now I'm just gonna walk through the rest real quick and fill you in later on what I did. Alrighty, so what I did was some further EQing just on all the guitar tracks. For example, here these. This is the EQ curve I gave those, so those second pair rhythm guitars don't need all that low end, lower mid-range. It's just mudding stuff up, it's just adding a kind of harmony to the main rhythm guitars. And I boosted it around, what's this, 800K, 800K, 700 Hertz. Because that's kind of the mid-range that makes them stand out a little bit and doesn't mush up too much with the main rhythm guitars. Or here these sludgy leads that are over here. And this is the EQ curve I gave those. Here around 1.5K is where they stand out in the mix very nicely without standing in the way of anything else. They also needed a bit more brightness on top, so I gave them a white bell boost there on at around 10K. And then also vocals, just a little bit of low-end filtering, so there's not any woofers and whatnot messing stuff up. And also in that boxy mid-range, 500 Hertz, I lowered it a little bit because they were a bit strong in that area. And I did that to pretty much all the vocal tracks. On the additional vocal tracks like the doubles and the backing tracks and whatnot, I filtered the low-end a little bit more. Because here too, I don't need too much of that in these doubled vocal tracks. I just need to have that full sound in the main vocal track, and everything else is just support. I don't want them to be clashing with the main vocals. Here in these tracks. And trying to find his own path here in the avenue. I also filtered the top range a tiny bit, again with the same idea as on the overheads, to make them stand back a little bit more and don't, so they're not too present up there in your ear. And this is what it sounds like right now. Let's compare it with our raw mix from the beginning. So you notice the lower mid-range is much clearer and controlled now that we EQ'd a lot of that. And the drums are a little bit punchier and cut through a little bit more. And especially those cymbals. You could really hear it in the left cymbal. Un-EQ'd, there's really something piercing up there that's really distracting. But now it's nice and smooth and buttery. Okay, so far for today, so the main point of this part was just giving everything a rough EQ balance. Further down the line, we will get into some more specifics and how specifically we're gonna EQ the kick drum. And also the bass guitar still needs a lot of work. Right now it's just to draw the eye. And we're also gonna still see about the guitar tones, though I think the raw guitar tones right here, the main rhythms, they actually sound really good. I think I'm actually not gonna change those. I like them quite a bit. But we're gonna have to see about the smudge leads and also the tracks down here, these intros. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, please consider subscribing and checking out my music. Links are in the description. I shall see you next time.